I think this is probably a bit of a combination answer from what everyone else has already mentioned. I think you mentioned this at the very start, but the first thing I would say is that it's 12 months long, and I think that provides you a really invaluable experience to embed yourself in a company, to embed yourself in a role, and to get some really meaty projects that you can learn from. And then I think the second part for me is definitely actually the structure of the business. Like we're a big organization, but we're not in consumer healthcare, we're not, massively big. And I'm sure it's the same in the pharma business where you get to interact with heaps of different people. It's all open plan. There's a lot of networking that you can do. And all of that feeds into a really great culture and building connections and experience and learning. And I think that's incredible for an IBL year.
I 100% echo that. I would say that personally, I'm somebody who's, I'm a bit of a people person, and I really like to sort of know everybody in the office and, not have to go to the coffee machine and wonder who's that, should I say hi or not? And people think that, GSK, massive company, global, it must be, so many strangers. But I guess in Australia, having 1,500 people, with a lot of those being on the road as our sales force, like you said, Bridget, you do get to know everybody, and it's quite a small community, but you can have such a massive impact. Probably, I guess, like the transferable skill that we've grown the most over our year.
Yes, definitely.
Cool. Before I flick to the others, I'll quickly say personally, it would have to be for me communication. I think that communication is not something that I struggled with or that I was nervous about coming in, but I really grew in this area a lot. So I had the ability to write lots of emails and figure out even just how to structure a nice email, as well as writing reports, but then also presenting. I did lots of presenting in person in meetings, whether that's in a small meeting to a senior or perhaps at our metrics, at our sort of weekly get-togethers. I even ran a GSK trivia night to get sort of face-to-face presenting, but then also a lot of video content. So there's a wall over here that's a nice blank wall that I film a lot of YouTube videos on. When you go through the process, you'll see that, and that's actually quite a skill as well. So communication for me is the one that I've grown the most, and something that we look for. We'll go sort of around the grounds again. Our order's sort of been Renee, Lauren, Connor, Bridget. So Renee, what would you say is the transferable skill that you've grown the most?
I think if you work in retail or you've had any sort of experience with customers, particularly painful customers, where you're able to calmly diffuse a situation that's sort of the worst case scenario, then that personal interaction skill is something that will really help you, and that you'll definitely grow just by talking to other employees. But also if you're in a role like myself where you're sort of a bit more customer service, you're talking to pharmacists a bit more often, maybe you're talking to sales reps, being able to accurately get your point across and communicate with people like Brent's saying, but also just knowing body language, knowing how to convey yourself accurately and get your point across, especially when you're talking about pharmaceuticals and products that need to be used in a certain way and you're trying to get your point across. If you're able to just explain a situation and diffuse a situation if it gets a bit antsy, that's definitely a good skill to have and something you'll definitely grow on.
Really good question, and it does change year on year. So our IBL program is a 12-month contract, and it is a strict 12-month contract. And I guess the reason for that is that we've been running the program for 12 years, and if we kept on 50% every year, well, the program would be done after 2 years. And so it is, there is no sort of guaranteed pathway into GSK. But that being said, there is definitely opportunities every single year for IBLs to stay on. Bridget and myself are good examples of that. So we do have a graduate program, which is our FLP, Future Leaders Program at GSK. And we tend to only recruit sort of 1 to 3 for each business each year. But about 50% of all of our FLPs do come from our IBL program. So If you make it into the IBL program, fingers crossed, then in March you'll be able to apply. So you only will have been in IBL for a couple of years, but you can apply for the FLP program. So hopefully then transition straight into that. We have 2 FLPs at the moment who were started this year that were IBLs the previous year, or 3 actually. But the rest of the roles are, it kind of just case by case. So if a team, so the IBL role finishes in January, if in December somebody says that they're going to another business, or someone's taking a career break, or perhaps going on parental leave, then that's a fantastic opportunity for an IBL to step in and step into their place. And if you make it known throughout the year that this is a job that you love and this is somewhere where you want to stay, then your team will move mountains to try to find a role for you. But unfortunately, sometimes if there's no role opening, it can be a bit of luck in your team, and you won't be given a role. But instead, the next IBL will come in to replace you. In my circumstance, the person who was the early talent recruiter last year finished up in October so that she could go and go back to uni and study her master's. Hannah, she was a superstar. But then the team actually left that role vacant for me and offered it to me when she left, and said, hey, if at the end of your IBL year, this is a job that you would be interested in, then we're happy to keep it open for you. And that's the kind of thing that can happen. Bridget, you were awesome and stayed on as one of the IBLs. How did that opportunity arise for you?
Yeah, I was really fortunate. So I think for those of you who don't know, GSK went through a joint venture last year where the consumer healthcare business merged with the Pfizer healthcare business, which is why we now have Centrum and Advil, Chapstick, a bunch of other really cool brands under our portfolio as well. And I had throughout the year built really strong connections, and I think networking is really critical in this space, and I'd really made it known that I loved GSK and I really wanted to stay, and it just so happened in that joint venture that roles became available, and I think similar to Brent, you obviously have to go through an interview process, but I was offered one of the roles that I really wanted, so I'd made it known throughout my IBL year that I really wanted to move from the expert team into a brand marketing team, and my preference was to work on Panadol. So I was really lucky. I did get that, and part of that was by making it known that that's the direction that I wanted to go in, and I was fortunate enough that I graduated uni last year, which put me in a really good kind of position to take on a full-time role. And then I think the second part of that is, number one, as Brent said, if you make it known that you want to stay, and number two is putting yourself in the best position throughout your IBL year to be offered a role. So work hard, show initiative. It sounds really cliche, but as Brent said, the company will move mountains to keep you if you show that you really want to be there and if you add value to the company. So taking on new projects, putting your hand up for things, and taking the year as a learning opportunity to develop as much as you can and show that you want to give that back to the company in future years.
Absolutely. 2 quick little additional points that Bridget's just reminded me of is, one, a lot of students actually don't want to stay on, and it's not because they don't love GSK, it's because they still have a year of full-time uni to go. So that does mean that you have a greater chance if you will have less units to go. And the other thing is, a lot of people that stay on don't always stay in the same team. So like Bridget said, if you make a lot of people know that you're keen, and maybe in HR, I know I had a lot of chats with the comms team because I really liked them, and we were looking at an opportunity there as well. So some people go to different sites, to the field force as a sales rep. So there's opportunities there, but yeah, make yourself flexible and let people know. I must say that I have beaten our GM in table tennis a couple of times, and Christy and I are good buds. Yeah, Renee, I might get you to sort of share your answer for everybody else there, because I know that you've done some good work.
So what I had privately sent to Madeline was that this morning, actually, I had a call with, I think, 4 other IBLs, and we just had a virtual coffee chat with our GM, Christy, so the general manager for the Pharma Australia business. She works in the Abbotsford office where I am placed, and they just work on a big open plan table in sort of the middle of the level. So when you're walking past them, as long as you know they're not in calls or meetings, they're definitely happy to give you a hi, how's it going, how are you enjoying your position, and have that chat with you. They're all very approachable and very nice. I just found that I had to get over the, oh my God, it's the executive team, and like not stress out that these are such important people that didn't have time for me, because that's definitely not the case. The first thing that they tell you is like, if you need to chat or want to chat, definitely come to us. So you definitely might not have direct in your role, like direct work with them. For me, I don't personally, but I definitely chat with them all the time, make coffee beside them and see how their weekend was. They are all very approachable.
It's a great call. I would say that hierarchy is in your head. It doesn't exist anywhere else in GSK, but in your head. I remember there was a few sort of executives or senior leaders that I was introduced to and said, hey, this is, you know, the head of compliance. And then all of a sudden, oh, you know, you think, hey, well, but then there's other people where it's like, I just met them on my day one, had a chat, asked about the holidays, their weekend, and then later on found out that, oh, that's like the second in charge of the whole office. And then once you, because it's only in your head that you start to worry. So, and even then there is no need to worry at all. And one tip for students that do come into GSK is to, if you want to talk to a manager or a high up, and this goes for any role, ask them about something personal that sort of brings them down to your level. Ask them how their kids are going. Ask them what sport they like, you know, what music they listen to, because even though we have different jobs and we probably get paid a bit differently, we all still enjoy the same things when we go home at the end of the day. So that's a good tip. And thank you very much for the question.